Today's housing market reality is reflected clearly in the numbers. The typical mortgage payment has seen a 113% increase compared to pre-pandemic levels, more than double what homebuyers paid just a few years ago. I've analyzed Zillow's latest housing data, and there are critical warning signs every buyer, seller, and homeowner needs to understand. The market is shifting beneath our feet, and today I'm breaking down exactly what these changes mean for your real estate decisions in the coming months. My analysis reveals concerning trends that could significantly impact your buying or selling strategy this April. Home values continue their upward trajectory despite significant market headwinds. Looking at the latest Zillow data, we're witnessing remarkable patterns across different housing markets nationwide. While national figures provide a broad perspective, the regional story reveals nuanced and concerning trends. Data shows 37 of the 50 largest metropolitan areas experiencing year-over-year home value increases, a significant majority of major markets continuing to push higher despite serious affordability challenges. The diversity of appreciating markets reveals interesting patterns. San Jose leads with a substantial 7.6% increase. Providence, Rhode Island follows at 6.5%, and Cleveland shows a 6.2% growth. Hartford and New York complete the top five with identical 5.6% appreciation rates. These markets have vastly different economic foundations, housing stock, and demographic profiles, yet all demonstrate robust price growth. In contrast, 11 major metros are experiencing notable declines. Austin shows the steepest drop at 3.8%. Followed by Tampa at 3.6% and San Antonio at 2%. New Orleans and Phoenix are experiencing declines of 1.7% and 1.6% respectively. Many of these declining markets were among the hottest during the pandemic housing boom, making their current corrections particularly significant. This divergence signals a fundamental shift in how regional markets respond to current economic conditions. We're seeing fragmentation into distinct regional patterns rather than a unified national market, making broad predictions increasingly unreliable for individual buyers and sellers. This point should remind you to understand your local market conditions before entering the market. If you would like to receive a monthly statement showing the value and equity in your home, I'm offering this service free of charge for the first 500 viewers who enroll by clicking the link below. The affordability implications are profound. Rising mortgage payments alongside price increases create a significant financial burden for potential homeowners. When factoring in higher interest rates with these price trends, the cost of borrowing has risen dramatically compared to pre-pandemic levels, significantly impacting first-time buyers facing barriers that didn't exist just a few years ago. These regional differences demand different strategies for market participants. Buyers in appreciating markets must act decisively and prepare for competition, while those in declining markets might leverage more negotiating power. Similarly, sellers in stronger markets might capitalize on appreciation, while those in softening regions need more conservative pricing strategies to attract buyers. This data clearly shows that the housing market isn't experiencing the uniform correction some analysts predicted. Instead, it's fragmenting into distinct patterns requiring localized understanding and strategies. Local market conditions have become increasingly determinant of outcomes, making national trends insufficient for comprehensive local market analysis. Hey, if you appreciate videos based on facts and data and want to receive them promptly, simply click the subscribe button below and you'll see them immediately. Also, please hit that like button while you're down there to tell YouTube that you prefer facts, not hype. Beyond these fragmented regional trends lies a contradiction that impacts almost every buyer and seller in America today. Despite headlines about a cooling market, we're witnessing a puzzling inventory crisis that persists at 26% below pre-pandemic levels. Yet simultaneously, homes are sitting on the market longer and price cuts are increasing, a paradox that challenges conventional wisdom about supply and demand in real estate. This market contradiction stems from several key metrics showing significant shifts. New listings decreased by 4.7% compared to last year and remain 21% below pre-pandemic levels. Fewer sellers enter the market, yet overall inventory gradually accumulates because properties stay available longer before finding buyers. The median age of inventory has reached 65 days, indicating buyers have become more selective and cautious in their purchasing decisions. This buyer hesitation manifests in several ways. The Percentage of homes selling above list price dropped to 22.3% in February, down 2.5 percentage points from January, and 21.6% of listings took a price reduction, up 1.6 percentage points from last year. The frenzy of bidding wars and everything selling over asking price is fading in most markets as sellers exercise more restraint. These changes in buyer behavior are directly affecting market activity. Despite more available inventory than in recent months, new pending listings decreased by 8% from last year. The median days to pending increased by 6 from last year, reaching 23 days in February, clear evidence that buyers aren't rushing to snap up the additional inventory that's slowly building. This combination of metrics reveals a market in transition. We're witnessing the early stages of a power shift, where elevated prices and high mortgage rates create meaningful resistance from buyers. However, inventory remains significantly constrained by historical standards, which continue to support home values in most markets. The simultaneous presence of buyers and sellers' market characteristics makes this situation particularly unusual. Sellers still benefit from limited competition due to the overall inventory shortage, while buyers now have more leverage than at any point in the past few years. This emerging balance gives buyers more time to decide, more negotiating power, and less pressure to make quick decisions or waive contingencies. This balancing represents a market recalibration rather than a collapse. The extreme seller advantage that dominated during the pandemic frenzy is moderating, but we haven't swung to a buyer's market yet in most regions. Instead, we see a gradual normalization process that varies significantly by location. I must warn you, though, if mortgage rates drop close to 6%, we will see more buyers entering the market, and the severe shortage of homes will result in higher home prices. Location-specific normalization has become the central story of today's housing market. San Francisco and Miami, two coastal powerhouse cities, now sit at opposite ends of the buyer-seller power spectrum. The national market has reached neutrality for the first time in 5 years, but this balance masks a dramatic reshuffling of power beneath the surface. This moment represents a genuine milestone. Zillow's Market Heat Index now classifies our national housing market as neutral, meaning neither buyers nor sellers hold a systemic advantage in negotiations. We haven't seen this kind of equilibrium since February 2019, before the pandemic distorted virtually every aspect of real estate. When we examine local conditions, a patchwork of dramatically different realities emerges. According to Zillow's data, Buffalo, San Jose, San Francisco, Hartford, and Boston currently rank as the strongest sellers markets. Despite the national cooling trend, buyers in these areas still face significant competition and limited negotiating power. Meanwhile, Miami, New Orleans, Jacksonville, and Tampa have swung decidedly in favor of buyers, a remarkable reversal considering several of these markets were among the hottest sellers markets in the country less than 2 years ago. Florida's coastal markets have experienced a power shift that happened more rapidly than most analysts anticipated, with rising insurance costs likely being the driver. These power dynamics are unfolding alongside notable construction activity. Housing starts increased to 1.501 million in February, seasonally adjusted annual rate, an 11% jump from January's revised estimate, though remaining 3% below last year's level. Single-family housing starts rose to 1.108 million in February, 11.4% above January, but still 2.3% lower than February last year. Despite inventories remaining well below historical norms, construction hasn't surged as needed. Elevated construction costs, continued labor shortages, and uncertainty about future demand given today's higher interest rates have led builders to adopt a more cautious approach despite the clear need for additional inventory. The home affordability crisis will not heal unless we build more homes to fill the void. The rental market adds further pressure to this complex equation. Asking rents increased by 0.4% month over month in February, exceeding the pre-pandemic average of 0.3% for this time of year. Year-over-year rents are now up 3.5% nationally, creating significant barriers for potential first-time homebuyers trying to save for down payments. Regional rental variations are equally pronounced. Rents have climbed from year-ago levels in 47 of 50 largest metro areas, with Hartford at 7.8%, Cleveland at 6.3%, and Providence at 6.3% experienced the steepest increases. These rising costs trap many would-be buyers in the rental market, preventing their transition to home ownership. We're witnessing a fundamental restructuring of housing market dynamics where hyperlocal conditions now determine success. The days of a universally hot national market are behind us for now, and today's environment requires buyers and sellers to develop strategies tailored specifically to their local market's unique conditions and trajectory. The persistent inventory deficit we're facing isn't going to resolve itself through market forces alone. According to Zillow's data, this 26% shortfall, compared to pre-pandemic levels, will continue to strain affordability unless we implement meaningful policy changes. The housing experts are clear. Easing restrictive zoning regulations and increasing funding for affordable housing initiatives would immediately improve the situation. For real estate stakeholders, the time for action is now. Developers, local governments, and federal agencies must coordinate to create innovative funding mechanisms and streamline approval processes for new construction. Waiting for interest rates to drop isn't viable when fundamental supply constraints remain unaddressed. If you want to know whether a housing market crash is likely, you can view my recently released video based on new Redfin data that I use to answer today's big question: is the housing market headed for a crash?